Caring.
So I'm gonna need them both for the big letters.
Look, my family talk about my text messages already.
We're on live.
Yes, the meeting is now streaming. Go.
Cool. What's going on, everybody? Peace and blessings. Welcome to. We were trying to decide. We were sitting here debating. Is this episode 1 and the last one was the pregame, or is this episode 1.5 or whatever? You know what I mean? But we're so glad for those that are able to make it. You know what I mean? As we're continuing to launch our shared future. You know, a podcast slash live with a dialogue where we're trying to just understand this way together, right? Like where are we going? You know what I mean? Like how we're walking this out, you know? And so when we was pondering guests, the first one that came to my mind was Kiana Daniels, known as Key, my beloved sister that is this like amazing architect when it comes to building ecosystems and just like on an amazing healing journey. And I love how you integrate, you know, healing into everything that you do. You know what I mean? Amazing business mind. I mean, like, yeah, she's a real deal beyond what I could ever say. So I want to introduce everybody to Kiana Daniels.
Hey, everybody, and thank you for that introduction. Couldn't get no better than that. But yeah, I'm so happy to be here. Super honored and humbled to be the first guest on this amazing episode or podcast to talk about solidarity and what that means for our community and what that means for us collectively and individually. And just to really get us to a place of having conversations about what does it look like? How do we embody solidarity? And I don't want this to be super professional. Most of you all know who I am. If you don't, I can't wait to meet you. And I'm just ready to dive into this dope conversation.
Yeah, I have too. We've been building for a while, so it's like you know, probably for weeks, for real, longer than that. You know what I mean? So like this is a conversation that's been waiting to happen. You know, and you know, like so you know, we've been talking a little bit about like building this shared future and like how we develop like this sense of, oh, you know, I forgot to introduce Taylor. I said to introduce yourself or what's going on?
Yes, sure. I'm in the background, but
they can't see you.
I mean, they can. But everybody, my name is Tejal. I'll be just helping like moderate and just supporting Maha and Kiana in the conversation. I think I'm excited to just dive into these topics. I feel like there are things that we are just like just blessed to have the opportunity to talk about. And I'm specifically excited to talk about redemption and what that looks like for everyone. So
redemption song, right? You know, Love came out last week, you know what I mean? Redemption song, cover song by Bob Marley. And did y'all catch how Taylor just said, like, oh, I'm just taking no, Taylor does amazing work, you know what I mean? Don't slip on budding moguls and all of that, right? And so like Taylor in the house for sure, you know? All right. So you know, like so today's theme is about our time is now. You know what I mean? And you know, like there's no need for us to wait, you know, and like how do we, you know, shift the context and step into a new narrative that we can really like build on a deeper way, you know what I mean? And I know like healing is like central to your work, right? Yes. And so we've been talking about like, so we actually before I go into where I was about to go, like if you were to talk about like a cornerstone and like what are some of like the pivotal things that like make up like if a cornerstone is kind of like, you know, this thing that has to be laid that everything else gets built upon, you know what I mean? Like how would you like, I don't know, characterize a cornerstone and like what are some of the central things that you think would be a part of that?
Yeah, for sure. Especially when we're talking about solidarity. Maha and I have talked about this. I think that healing is a huge foundation for anything collective. And solidarity is us being in community with each other, having collective impact. And because we're dealing with each other and other individuals that we cannot control, healing individually is so essential to the way that we engage with each other. First and foremost, with how we engage with ourselves and then with each other to even do the revolutionary work that we're trying to do through Co-op Dayton and in this anti-status quo and what that looks like and creating the shared vision and the shared future. So something that I think is helpful to us as we get into this conversation is, a lot of people, I won't say everybody, I won't be that overzealous, but a lot of people are doing their individual healing work from childhood and adulthood traumas. So that we can think about the work that we are talking about in a way that doesn't seem insurmountable to us, I think that it's really helpful for us to think about our own journeys in healing and what that looks like and what we have had to do, what we have had to unlearn, what we have had to try, what we have had to get uncomfortable with, what we have had to accept and acknowledge and honor about ourselves so that we can just transfer this work that we are already doing in community. Because if we think about it that way, it makes it that much more, I don't know if easier is the term, but it makes it a lot more easily digestible. Because when we're talking about revolutionary work and creating this shared future, a lot of people can get scared by that. But if you know that you're already doing the work, how does that look in community and with each other? And so that's why I think that healing is the foundation for solidarity work, because we have to learn how to love ourselves and each other. A book that I finally finished because to me, I've treated it like a textbook is All About Love by Bell Hooks. We talked about this book. And in there, she really does break down what love really is. And not only her, but from a number of other people and psychologists and psychiatrists and all these people. But what she says that was so profound to me was that we don't actually love each other. We're doing a lot of caring for each other. We show affection, but we don't really love each other, because love means that we pretty much sacrifice ourselves for the betterment of someone else, for the spiritual growth of someone else. And that's something that we need to master in order to talk about creating this shared future, because a shared future in an anti-status quo community is literally built on love, and the current society and status quo that we live in is based off of exploitation.
Boy. Yeah, no, that's real. You know what I mean? Like, boy, you said something, I'm taking notes, you know what I mean? A different thing to dive in, And so like, yeah, I think that's a real good point, right? Of like, like one of the things that you may think about is like some of the elders, right? So like some of the elders, right? Like they hear the emphasis on healing right now, right? And the individual healing, which is necessary and important, right? But some of them are like, like the way that people are talking about healing is actually maintaining the status quo still, right? Because like sometimes like there can be an overemphasis on the individual so much that it's still like this thing of like independence, like your healing is your healing and my healing is my healing, instead of like if we're actually interdependent, you know what I mean? If we're a single garment of destiny, then like there's this collective healing aspect as well, you know what I mean? And Darshil, you know what I mean, talks a lot about that as well, you know what I mean? Like and how do we like come into this space of collective healing as well as like the individual healing, And you mentioned the status quo of the current system being around exploitation, you know what I mean? And which I would say is like being rooted in fear. You know what I mean? We're talking about like what is that cornerstone of the current narrative, you know what I mean? It's built upon fear, right? And then fear leads to competition and all of these things, and survival of the fittest and social Darwinism and all of these things, you know what I mean? And so it's like that cornerstone is so critical, right? Because it's the thing that everything else builds off of, you know what I mean? And so it's like, are we going to be rooted in love for real? You know what I mean? And learning what that means, you know what I mean? Because like it's one thing to say we want to live in love, you know what I mean? I got my shirt from the movie One Love, you know what I mean? But it's like how do we step into it? You know what I mean? And it's like, and I think that's like a journey in and of itself, right? But like if interdependence I'm still saying if, I'm trying to say since more, right? Like since we are interdependent, meaning that like what impacts you impacts me, and what impacts me impacts you. You know what I mean? That like King talks about, we're caught in the inescapable web of mutuality, right? Like if that is the case, then on some levels, it's like that love leads to cooperation, right? Because of like if we're interdependent, then we know that we have a shared future, right? And then so we have a shared future, it's like, what is that future that we're building together? Like, what is this thing that like we are pressing towards? You know what I mean? Which I think is like part of the whole like notion of this podcast. You know what I mean? Like how are we like literally building solidarity? You know what I mean? Like shared identity. You know what I mean? Like how are we moving forward into a new paradigm where the assumption is that we are a simple garment of destiny. You know what I mean? Like, it's not something that we're questioning. It's not like, oh, that's a cool thing that you're saying, but no, it's like a real reality. Like gravity is going to be gravity regardless. Like I could have a name for gravity. I can like gravity, not like gravity, but gravity is impacting all of us regardless. You know what I mean? And so it's the same with interdependence. You know what I mean? Or Ubuntu, I am because you are. Like that is just the structure of reality. You know what I mean? And so it's like, how are we operating from that knowledge base, right? Which I think lends to this healing, because it's like part of the healing or the unlearning, right, is how we impact each other, and how we show up in spaces impact each other. So how are we healing individually and collectively to create the soil, like, shout out Rafiki and Mariah, right? You know what I mean? Like how we cultivating this different soil that can allow different fruit of love to manifest.
Absolutely. No, that's good. Absolutely. But you're absolutely right, because in I'm putting my business hat on right now, right? What I would say too, when I'm creating deals with people or partnerships or collaboration, whatever, it's not, we're so used to the term "what's in it for me," right? And that's that learned conditioned behavior and mindset. But what I like to say is like, what's in it for us? Because if it benefits you and it benefits me, we create this mutual benefit, and that is us being in solidarity, us being in community, us creating shared ownership, which also gives us incentive to both show up, right? And so that's what we need, I think, in creating solidarity and shared vision and this shared future. And because we have to care about each other, right? And then a lot of that too is trust building, right? Like, and we gotta heal to trust. You know what I'm saying? And what we have seen in our community, if we're talking about actualizing it, and realizing the things that we're talking about, how do we really walk the walk? To walk the walk, we gotta start saying like, okay, I know that you maybe misappropriated the funds 40 years ago, but we forgive you, and we're gonna be in community. You know what I'm saying? Because we will hold people's feet to the fire, and it'll be the very thing that hinders us from moving in solidarity. Nobody wants to talk about that.
And you know what? I think you got hit. I'm gonna say something, because like. So some know, some don't know that we hosted an intergenerational dialogue. A couple years before, right?
Before the pandemic.
Yeah, before the pandemic, right? Because we knew the power of these intergenerational networks, right? Yeah. And so, like, say that say there's an elder that stole $40,000 40 years ago or whatever, right? Then they have a crew around them. You know what I mean? And then because that elder had did something, now like, the people of that crew can't associate with people, like people, you know what I mean? So like since the elders didn't heal, like we have these columns of people in our community that have not come together and worked together because of things that happened, generations ago.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so it's like, yeah, like what is this healing process, or like what is this restorative justice process, right? Because like when harm is done, it's not just to the individual or to like organization, to the people, but like there's the web of people that's been impacted as well, right? And so like how are we healing these wounds to build, that shared future from a divided past, right? Tato, you got a comment? I'm getting old, I think, because I cannot read anything in the chat. So you're gonna have to.
Yes, that is why I'm raising my hand. So I just want to make sure we incorporate some of these comments. I think what you guys are talking about is so real. I love just like the rawness of it. These are things that we definitely, I am 100% in agreement with talking about. So in in connection to your guys' conversation, I asked the audience, how do you guys uplift collective love? This is when we were talking about Bell Hook's book and all about love. And there were some answers, so I just want to share them and thank everybody for joining. Please share
Thank you. Thank you.
so that we can continue to just add to this conversation. This conversation will be available on YouTube as well. We'll share the link by the end of the week. But so the answers to how you guys uplift collective love, Sire Malt, I hope I'm saying your name right. I also put their name in the chat if you want to read it, Maha and Key. But I'm currently in the middle of reading all about love. So good. My favorite part so far has been about familial love being entangled with upholding children's rights in the home.
Yeah.
Ellen May said creating space for vulnerability, which I 100% agree. Being vulnerable, that's what it takes to exist in community. And what's up, J Biz? How you doing?
Okay. Hey, always from the yard. What's going on, Biz?
All right, y'all. Sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
No, that's not interrupting at all. You know what I mean? Because like for those that did not catch our first episode, right? Like originally we were like, oh, we're gonna do a Facebook Live and then we're gonna just do a podcast for the rest, right? But like as the dialogue was so rich and dope, we're like, man, like how do we incorporate this dialogue? Because ultimately, I've been seeing lately that it's the dialogue that holds us.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like, how are we holding a dialogue that grounds us in a new paradigm, right? So we want to create space for the community to talk together. And so like, you know, the community feedback and the community engaging. And if people have ideas how to make this even more meaningful or beneficial, you know, we are open to learning, you know what I mean? You know, Taylor got a lot more experience than I do, but like I'm new to all this, so we gonna figure it out as we go, you know what I mean? And I appreciate what you said about vulnerable because I think like that is connected to trust, you know what I mean? Because like Peter Block will talk about how like the weight of the dialogue is dependent upon like the level of trust that has been accumulated. You know what I mean? Like someone that I just meet, you know what I mean? We might have a dialogue on a certain level, but we ain't gonna have like a deep dialogue until like I know you, you know what I mean? And I have that trust, right? And like when we're talking about like part of the status quo that's rooted in fear is, especially in the Black community, is that we've been through so much trauma that there's a high level of distrust, that we're in like a total fight and flight mode. Yeah. You know what I mean? And so everybody's seen as like an opposition or you know, seen as a possible threat and all of these things, right? And so like that hinders us from being able to have these deeper conversations, you know what I mean? Which is why I appreciate you naming that like healing is part of this foundational work, right? And like for those that are in date, like that's why the heart is here, right? Yeah. To like have these conversations of how we can like move these things forward, because without healing, without the space of building trust, we can't have these deeper dialogues and we can't like, you know, collaborate in a real way.
Absolutely. And because everybody wants to get straight to strategy, right? You know, you see a problem, you see a gap, you want to fill it, you want to fix it, and you get to strategy. But there is so much underneath the root, the foundation that helps the strategy if we get to the foundation. So that's why, you know, talking about healing and understanding, like you said, right? We're talking about the Black community, working class communities who have experienced historically years and years and years of trauma. You can't just start strategizing without addressing the trauma that has taken place, thinking that people are going to truly be able to rise to the occasion to the best of their ability and capacity, when in this country we have been told that we are less than the capacity that we really have the ability to reach, right? And so it's just like, well, wait a minute, something is missing for me when we start talking strategy and not get into the root. And two, when we're talking solidarity, we're talking about communal, you know, collective impact and bringing everybody's gifts and skills and resources together, you know, for it to really go the furthest it can go, to really understand how it really all works together. I think we have to take a step back and try to really understand each other too, right? So a lot of times people try to problem solve and they don't do it from a strengths-based perspective. And if we're talking about creating this shared future, in an anti-status quo, I would love, my vision for a shared future would be for everybody to be able to truly walk in their strengths and their gifts and their skills and the talents that they were created with, what they were born with, right? It's a lot of people that's working jobs that they hate, you know what I mean? Just to survive, just to put food on the table. But what does the shared future look like if everybody could really walk in their purpose? How much more happier and joyful would people be?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's a lot of, and specifically, we're talking about Black people. It's a lot of Black people who have never experienced joy, and it is my vision to see more of us, more people that look like me, experience true joy, true peace, true all these things. So, in my utopia, in my future, we are peaceful beings. We are hopeful. We are optimistic. We are all healing. We are all treating each other and speaking to each other with respect. You know what I'm saying? With love, with trust. You know what I mean? Like, and it does for me, like in my mind, based on my own experience, because your girl has been out here healing, healing, deep down, healing.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It works.
Yeah.
Nah. I mean, for real, it ain't been no joke either. And I'm not here to say and sell no dream about it being easy, because it is not easy. Or even creating a shared future that we're talking about, right? Yeah. None of that is easy. Working with other people is not easy. We all know that. We go to work every day and we're like, I can't stand this person. You know what I mean? But like, if we're all coming at it with a positive mindset, assuming positive intent, I think it could be that much better.
That's it. As a comment? Okay.
So Courtney Terry said, hey girl, that's my girl right there. She said, vulnerability is definitely dependent on trust. I am only just realizing the depth of vulnerability that's necessary for healing. There are definitely levels to vulnerability. That part right there, levels and layers, honey.
Right. But what we should probably do for next episodes, right, is that, like, at the heart we have a bell. When someone says something, we ding the bell. We probably need to have a bell inside of this conversation. So yeah, no, I'm feeling that.
Yeah, one more question. Okay. A question for the host: how does co-ops and or other communities you're connected to practice transformative justice in situations dealing with very recent and intentional directed harm towards you as an individual and as a collective? Oh, Sarah, thank you. Oh, sorry about that. Thank you so much for pronunciation.
I say, so I have to connect with the practice of transformative justice situation dealing with very recent potential direct harm. Yeah, I think, like, if I'm understanding so co-ops are an association of people, you know what I mean? And so, like, if there's been harm done inside of that, it's like how to process and heal what has happened, like how to have dialogue, you know what I mean, to understand where everybody was coming from, you know what I mean, to understand, like, what were some of the root assumptions, and maybe there's some kind of misunderstanding, you know what I mean, to do the work. And I think part of it, and it kind of goes to what Key was just saying, is like like, this healing work is not for the weak in heart, you know what I mean? And, individually or collectively, you know what I mean? To really, like, understand the differences, right? But, like, I think sometimes orgs split over differences, right? But like my hope would be, as like co-ops, that we're like where cooperation is our goal, that we're going to be willing to stand in the gap, you know what I mean, and have these hard conversations or whatever necessary to create and cultivate the space where we can be in our full gifts, right? Like I often talk about, like, how do we create this? Like, I want to know what it looks like for our gifts to be in the center of the circle. Like, I want to know, like as Dayton, or as, whatever geography bound you want to put, all these gifts and talents that are there, like what does it look like when these gifts are fully in the center and they're connecting together and there's power emanating from it, And so, yeah, I think I don't know the full context, you know what I mean? But I think part of it is like, if you're bringing in outside mediation, you know what I mean? Like whatever necessary to kind of help have the dialogue. Does anybody else want to chime in too?
And I think it's at the core of it, right? Transformative justice is, seeking to understand. It is assuming positive intent instead of negative intent so that you can actually open your ears to actively listen to what people are saying. One thing that I have been learning just in engaging with people, and I'm a macro social worker, I didn't really say that. I studied social work, undergrad, grad school. So I have my bachelor's and master's, but I chose to go the macro route. So I study social and economic development. So what that means is that I study people, right? And interaction. Why do people do what they do? And so one thing that I have been seeing more and more lately, and hopefully this kind of gets to your question, Sarah, is that I will say we, because I've been guilty of this too. We feel what people say. We don't actually hear what people say, right? The words that actually come out of our mouths, if it's said a certain way or if it triggers a person in a certain way, people don't actually hear the words that are coming out of our mouths. They feel them, right? And so then they feel sad or they feel disrespected or offended or whatever the case may be. And so then that's what causes the problems that we have. And then we're getting away from the roots. We're not really getting to what really needs to be addressed, because now we're dealing with the feelings. And feelings are valid, but they are not fact. Right. And so I think when it comes to cooperation, like what you said, is, if to me, cooperation is a choice to collaborate, right? It's a choice to be collective. And if we are collective and we're dealing and engaging with another human being who has flaws and is not perfect and all these things, it's not going to be easy, right? And so it means for me, in my experience, in my best experiences with people, is that I assume positive intent and I seek to understand, and I get into a posture, and a lot of times it can be very challenging, especially if you're dealing with someone that you deem as a challenging person. You have to seek to understand so you can actively listen, right? And hear what they're saying to you, so that then you can get to some problem solving, get to the root, and get to a place where we're in agreement or agreeing to disagree, but we have an understanding.
Yeah. And I think that's the key of conflict transformation, right? Is that like conflict transformation isn't about like, we're going to leave everything kumbaya, but it's like everybody is like, they're in their place of power and they're in their voice as far as like their experience. And I appreciate how you mentioned assuming best intentions, right? And I think a nuance inside of that is like separating intent from impact. You know what I mean? That like, yeah, like I know you did not intend this, or I'm gonna assume you didn't intend this, but like I also need to acknowledge the impact that it had, right? And then how like we navigate that space, you know what I mean? And so that like we can like get to that place of like a deeper healing, something that you mentioned, and I hope that gave a little bit, Sarah. And I think the other thing too, I think is interesting, right? Is that like we've learned for hundreds of years how to compete. You know what I mean? Like when are we gonna get to this space where, you know what, like let's start learning how to cooperate. You know what I mean? That like in schools, you know what I mean? That like kindergarten, and you know what I mean? That like we're learning how to cooperate, because it's a muscle, and we gotta learn how to develop it, and we've learned how to compete good. We are real good at that.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And we see how the exploitation comes from that. We see how the economic inequality comes from. We see the results of like the system that is crumbling based upon this notion of like competition, right? Yeah. And so it's like when are we gonna, have these kind of, learn how to cooperate, you know what I mean? And that's gonna take time, you know what I mean? Something that you mentioned you mentioned joy, and now like, boy, I got a shirt that says "Joy is the revolution." You know what I mean? I'm like, man, I wish I wore that shirt today. You know what I mean? Because it's like, yeah, like, what role does joy play inside of this? You know what I mean? And there's an artist that I love. I listen to a lot lately called Natalie Rise, right? And she had a song that said, "Evolution is the revolution." You know what I mean? And so like how are we like framing revolution inside of like development of the heart? You know what I mean? Like how are we becoming a different being? You know what I mean? In this process of like moving ourselves forward, because like oftentimes like we won't do the underground work, and we'll just like dust up off and try to build, but we didn't do it with the root, and so the thing keeps collapsing. You know what I mean? So like how are we doing the deep work and laying down these strong pieces to allow these things to move forward as a community? And I think like one thing that you mentioned is like, to me, this whole process in some ways is how we reimagining Blackness, right? Because like we've all been suffering from internalized oppression, right? And so like how are we reimagining Blackness, and in that process reimagining healing, you know what I mean, and all of these things, right? Because it's like, we got to get outside this imagination that has been put upon us, you know what I mean, that has limited like how we see ourselves, you know what I mean, and our relationship to the environment and all these things, you know what I mean? So yeah.
And you said a number of things, and I'm trying to like catch my thoughts so I can.
That's why I got my notebook. I'm like, look.
You can't prepare. My mind is like, oh my God, where are we gonna start?
I can find some pretty cool.
No, it's okay. No, but you said something about like, okay, it's talking about the root, right? Like when we're unlearning things, if we're gonna try, I'm a person that believes in transference of skill sets, right? Like, because that's the best way to create and be consistent and persistent in creating the new habit. So if you know that you know how to do a thing in this area, and you're looking at a different area that you're trying to make change in, if you take the foundational things that you know works here, you transfer it to this new environment and you customize it the way that you need to. So talking about that and get into the root, and like if we're talking about like creating solidarity, and also getting to a place of how do we really actualize and realize this what does solidarity means and what it looks like and how to embody it. It is really understanding that in order to create a new habit, which is something that we're talking about in being revolutionary and creating this new or the anti-status quo, it is repetition, right? And creating a new habit isn't easy. Like this work that we're talking about, solidarity isn't easy. It's going to be very challenging. Yeah. And I think first and foremost, we have to acknowledge the truths about like this new reality that we're trying to create, so that we're not going into it blindly and telling ourselves lies, because that will take us back to square one. But then how do we keep moving forward, knowing that we are going to experience adversity, right? And you talk about joy. Well, joy is not happiness. Happiness is fleeting. Joy is persistent, because you can have joy in adversity, in the wilderness, while you're being crushed, you know what I'm saying, and broken and stretched and all these things. And that is what we are all going to be experiencing as we are creating this community of solidarity, of actually embodying what that looks like, because it's so easy to go back to we all know that. It's so easy to go back to toxic patterns that we know only provide instant gratification, right? Yeah. That's a whole other word. You know what I'm saying? But it's like, again, transference of it. It happens at work. It happens in relationships. It happens with food, working out, fitness. It literally happens in every area. But how do you I think the goal is being consistent and persistent in creating the new habit, this new normal, this new order that we're talking about, and just being honest with ourselves about like, this is going to be hard, which is why the healing and the love and the trust building and like seeking to understand and all of these things, these core values that we've talked about are so important, so that we don't find ourselves going back to the old. Because I for one, being in community with you all, would love to keep moving forward and to really realize and embody this shared future that we're talking about. And if we really all say that we want to see it, I think we should start challenging ourselves, and would love to hear the audience. Like, how do we walk the walk instead of just talk the talk? How do we stay fixed on progress, not perfection? How do we really keep moving forward? Because you have certain powers that be that don't want to see us joyful, that don't want to see us in the anti-status quo because it don't make money.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So like,
Right.
how do we know going forward that we're going to experience these barriers and adversity and still push forward, right?
Yeah, I appreciate that, right? Because when you said progress, not perfection, it made me think about that document that like we'll put in the chat for those who haven't seen it, about like kind of like the culture of white supremacy, right? And like the norms that comes with it. And one of those is like this perfectionism, you know what I mean? Which can keep people from acting, you know what I mean? Because ultimately it's about acting, it's about building our praxis, you know what I mean? It's about trying and learning and trying again and learning, right? Because like we won't know until we act, right? You know what I mean? You know, like we didn't like I forgot to introduce like your degrees, you know what I mean? And like I'm a action researcher, right? So action research is all about, you know, you act to learn and you learn to act. That we won't have full knowledge until we've acted on the thing that we can know, you know. And something that you were saying reminds me of an elder that transitioned a couple years ago that was well known in this region, named Baba Kirk, you know, out of Cincinnati, you know what I mean? And like there's this Bible verse where it says that if the foundation is destroyed, what shall the righteous do? You know, and Baba Kirk would often talk about like when you are building movements that you know, some people are going to come and go, you know, but you got to build that core, those, you know, 3 or 4 or 5 people that are committed to the marathon, you know what I mean? Like Nipsey Hussle talks about, you know what I mean? That like are going to ride this thing out long term. And some people will come and they'll bring gifts and they're going to leave, you know what I mean? They'll come back again, you know what I mean? So how do we create the space for people to come and go and come and go? But with that core, we need to be building that solid level of trust, right? Because like ultimately, you know what I mean? Like the reason why we start and stop in our communities oftentimes, you know what I mean, it's because we didn't do the relational work, right? We've been transactional and not relational. And because of that, you know what I mean, without that lack of trust, when the opposition or the forces trying to maintain the status quo is stronger than the forces trying to create something new, you know what I mean, the thing bursts and it dissipates, you know what I mean? And so like how we build those strong relationships, you know what I mean, with the solidarity in itself, you know what I mean, to be able to move the community forward.
And so we have a comment, and then just to say before we get the comment, and then we're not. Then you have people from a newer generation that's trying it again, but the last generation will say, "Oh, that's not going to work." Right?
Yeah.
And that is a trick of the enemy, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
I say different season.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, Darshil.
What up, Darshil? I don't know where you are on the globe. But
right. Hey, I'm here for that.
Well,
though,
I think she's
okay?
India. Maybe not.
She said, "That's right, Key. I've fallen into that before, not being explicit about what it truly takes and what we're going to have to sacrifice to live into these aspirations." Yeah.
No, that's real. You know, and like, yeah, it's something that you said that may have been what even sparked what Darshil said is like not just doing what's in like seeing my interest as a shared interest. You know what I mean? They're like, yo, I might take an L on this. You know what I mean? Because like for the greater good, that's what it is. You know what I mean? And like that's why like, you know, Bob said like soon we're gonna find out who are the real revolutionaries. You know what I mean? And so it's like, yo, like how do we live for the benefit of others, right? Like how do we lay down these bricks that like future generations can build off of? Because like we really are like when we're talking about the cornerstone, it's like the cornerstone isn't like a one day event or something like that. It's like if we're talking about like history and like what is gonna impact future generations. Like we literally are at that part right now where like we're laying this thing for future generations to build upon. You know what I mean? So it's like yeah.
And so we're getting to time, but so there's a couple other things. So let's talk about strategy, right? You know what I mean? There's this formula that I will say God gave me last year, and I want to co-create what this looks like, right?
Yeah.
What does this mean? How do we fill the formula? So it's ideas plus strategy equals structure. And to do anything, you need structure, right? You need something that's gonna hold firm to get you over the hump to the new thing, right? And for it to be the new practice. And so I think we would love to hear ideas from the community. That's what this podcast is all about, right? Creating a community, what this shared future looks like.
Yeah.
And so what are the ideas? What are the gaps? What are the holes in our current ecosystem? And if people don't know what an ecosystem is, that is just essentially a community.
Right.
It's a community, right? Like, so in the Dayton community or wherever you are, because ultimately we're talking global, what are the gaps? You know, if you assess and survey where you are and what exists, what resources, what organizations, you know, if you think about pillars or industries, however your mind works, what exists, what doesn't exist, what are the interconnectedness of those things that do exist, and then, you know, what are the opportunities, right? Like, so that's kind of like when you come up with ideas for this shared future and a better future for everybody, for the collective. Plus, then, you know, we get with the people we talked about, people walking in their gifts and their skills and their talents based on strengths based, right? What is the strategy? What is this shared strategy that incorporates everyone, not just a few people, not just the 1%ers, right? And then that will create the structure that we need to really move forward and to embody what we're talking about. So if people have ideas, and then, you know, Maha, you have some ideas. I know you've been noodling on this for a while.
Right. Yeah, no, I would love to hear what people are thinking. And like you said something that I think we have not explicitly named. I didn't fully even catch it till just now. I think like what we're trying to build is a community of practice. You know what I mean? Like what is this space where like we are learning together of like how to live this thing out, right? Like how are we meaning making? Right. You know what I mean? And so like that's why we want to hear from everybody else. You know what I mean? Like what are your ideas, right? Like from a sociological perspective, right? Like they say that ideas plus resources equal structure. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And so to me, it's like the idea is like, what is the thing that's like guiding the trajectory of like what it is we're trying to be? And then like the utilization of resources to make that happen is the strategy. Yeah. You know what I mean? So what is this strategy, how we're using what it is amongst us to get us to where we're trying to get, you know what I mean? So even like Co-op Dayton, right? So like Co-op Dayton is committed towards building the economy towards whatever the North Star is for our region. You know what I mean? Like if we're saying this is where we're going to go, okay, like how we build the economy, right? Because like going back to what Josh and Jessica, like talks about, right? That, you know, it's economic development and community transformation that ultimately leads us to self-determination. You know what I mean? That we need both, you know what I mean? And so like that is like ideas and adding resources to get to that new structure, you know what I mean? And so like what are like, to me, it's like, that's why I'm so heavy about that cornerstone and being rooted in love, because I think it's like, then like, how do we execute our resources to build structures that also supports love, you know what I mean? And enable love to exist and human dignity, center human dignity inside of structures and this, that, and the other, you know what I mean? Because I think all of that is critical towards like building this shared future.
Yeah, and I think, you know, this episode is called The Time Is Now, and that couldn't be any more true. With everything going on globally, you know, just everywhere, there's so many people that are really rising up and saying that I really don't want to keep living the way that I've been living, in the system that I've been living in the way that I've been conditioned and programmed to. And so there's a number of people that I do think are determined, self-determined, collectively determined to try new things, even if they don't know, what you could call the abyss, right? People are going back into like agriculture and growing things because our food sucks and it's extremely expensive, right? You know, it's very capitalistic and exploitative, and it is very much rooted in the survival of the fittest. We're seeing that. I mean, we've seen it time and time again, right? History repeats itself. But I do think the time is now, because there are so many people that they can't will themselves to do anything other than what is new, right? What is better than what we currently have. And so, yeah, I mean, like, I think a good example is, right, you know, Co-op Dayton incubated Gem City Market, which is a cornerstone of our community, right? And like with anything, there has been some ups and downs, and that's business, right? That's economics. And so, you know, our community, boy, you know, they love to blackball and to cancel and to all that stuff. That's why we need to do that healing, right? And so, like, we have something, we have a resource, we have a tangible resource in our community that is worker owned, community owned, and a lot of us are members and we're not supporting. We need to support what does exist. And if we want to bring new things into our community, then we need to start showing that we support what already exists that is good for the community. So I encourage everybody and challenge everybody, and I'm putting out a call to action to go support Gem City Market. And that call to action goes for me too, because I haven't shopped there in a while, but I'm going, you know, because I love Trader Joe's, but I'm going to love GCM too, okay?
Yeah, and you know, I think that's, I appreciate you bringing that up, right? And I think an interesting part to the market is that, like, the market is our chance to learn how to co-create and co-own together. You know what I mean? Like, the market can be what we as a community want it to be. You know what I mean?
Quite literally, like, we own it.
Like, I think the good news is that, like, when we first opened, right, we weren't able to do everything that we had initially hoped to do at the beginning. You know what I mean? Like, our prices were not where we wanted it to be. We weren't able to offer membership deals. You know what I mean? But, like, through the hard and diligent work of the staff, you know what I mean? Like, we now have a new supplier. We now, like, are able, like, right now we have member deals. We have 100 everyday low price items, you know what I mean? And so it's like, now's the time for the community to, like, pay another visit, you know what I mean? And, like, really put feedback, you know? 'Cause I think one of the things that we messed up for, to a certain extent, is, like, this notion of co-creating and co-ownership. You know what I mean? Like Dr. Jazz from National Black Food Justice Alliance speaks about cooperation is our ancient technology. You know what I mean? Because, like, it was really our first economic system. You know what I mean? And so it's like how are we learning how to, like, use these assets that we have? Like, the community has it. It's already tangible. It's already there. Like, how are we using that? You know what I mean? As a way to, like, move our community into whatever it is that we're trying to, like, build as a community, but seeing it as, like, an asset to use towards that. And that's different than, like, you know, we're not used to ownership together. You know what I mean? And what that can mean. You know what I mean? So, Tej, you got your hand up?
Yes. Hi, guys. Coming from the back. I just wanted to say that one thing that really sticks out to me when it comes to, like, organizations that, like, want to build community, want to do things with community, is that there's always room for constructive criticism and change, input. And I think that it's important that we identify the difference between an organization that's just trying to, like, do for you and not trying to have your input and not trying to give you a seat at the table, versus, like, an organization to be like, dang, we did mess up. You know what I'm saying? Like, how we gonna fix this? And I feel like, just to kind of touch on what you guys have, we have that in Gem City Market. Kroger, I mean, other places, other places are not going to give you ownership. They're not gonna, you know, have that instant resolve. They're not gonna push you to be on the board. Like, there's just all these opportunities, and like y'all said earlier, like, I just would hate to see us not recognize Gem City for what it is, what it was, and what it can be, because we truly built that as a community, and I can't just walk away. And I'm with Key. I really appreciate you saying, like, yes, y'all, let's shop there, my butt too. You know what I'm saying? Like, because that's real. That's real.
Yeah, you know, and so, like two things that you mentioned, Tejal. I appreciate, like, there's two ways to organize, right? One is to do something for the community, and the other thing is to build power with, right? And like our goal is to build power with, you know what I mean? Like, how do we use this market to build community power? For real, for real. You know what I mean? Like there's nothing hindering us from using this market to be whatever it is that the community we want it to be. Like that is completely in our power and control to do, right? And I think dang, I lost my second thought. Dang. Oh, I know what it is. That like, that like how do we, like ideally we need to increase our customer count and our basket size counts, you know what I mean? But even just people coming in and spending $5, you know what I mean? Like all those things matter, you know what I mean? It's like if weekly, you know what I mean, 1,000 more people came in and just bought one thing, you know what I mean? That helps continue to build the momentum, and let us know like what you like, what you don't like, what's working, what's not working, you know what I mean? Like the Operation Refresh community, right? Which is a committee that has staff, the board, and community on it together that we can co-create together. We can have a better understanding of like how things work. So like as a community, we can say, yo, we want this, right? But then the staff can be like, okay, like for this to happen, this is the stuff that has to happen on the back end, right? So it's like transparent of like this is what it takes. And then as a community, we can decide, right? Like what to do and what not to do. You know what I mean? So like we're trying to create these mechanisms that we can literally co-create together, which is new for all of us. You know what I mean? And we're learning and we're growing and we're building these muscles. You know what I mean? So yeah, I appreciate that.
Before you read that, I just wanted to say, like, we have all experienced the power of the pivot, right? And this is something that Gem City Market and other organizations in our community have had to do. And one thing that I would love to see in this shared future also is less judgment, right? Everybody has had to pivot in their businesses. I have had to pivot in many of my businesses. As we evolve as individuals, so does our business a lot of times. And so the power to pivot is not a bad thing. It's learning as you go and making the necessary changes. And so that is what GCM has had to do. And so we just hope and we invite you all to just judge less and try it again, you know what I mean? And support your community resources. Don't complain when they leave, and if you're not supporting them while they're here. So that's also a call to action.
That's right. And I think those local comedy, period. You know what I mean? Like I know like we were gonna talk about the Ugly Duckling, you know what I mean? And like all these different
shout out to them for raising 15K in 24 hours.
Yeah.
Shout out to y'all. Congratulations.
I love the Ugly Duck, and I love the work that they do, you know what I mean? And just in the community, period, and this, that, and other, you know what I mean? So like how do we like acknowledge, so one of the questions that we had, like we were talking earlier, like how do we, what is the mechanism that we can create for those businesses, nonprofits, people, organizations that are like really pressing to like emerge this new community, to emerge a deeper community? Like how do we like acknowledge, how do we like see each other, recognize each other, and create these mechanisms to support each other, right? It's kind of like, Tulsa, Oklahoma, and the Black Wall Street or whatever it is, you know what I mean? And I'm not saying just it has to be only Black or whatever, but it's like how do we acknowledge like this group of people is trying to like press towards getting us outside of this status quo. So how do we support their businesses? You know what I mean? How do we like flip this dollar amongst these entities and this, that, and other? You know what I mean? So like what was oh, what's up, Mike? Listen, you know what I mean? Like I would love to have you on the show. You know what I mean? Okay, what's he saying? Vision. I'm sorry, I can't read.
Here, I'll read it. Okay, so Michael says, the vision North Star leads us forward. Goals help us orient to milestones along the way that help us measure our success. Strategy is the time-defined activities we will execute to meet these goals. Tactics give us tangible tasks that people who are part of the group can plug into and work on. All of it rests upon the culture and structure we have built within the group. Culture is being created within the group every day. Reflections on how we get closer to these aspirations.
I say. And for those that don't, I think a lot of people know Michael, but like he created the ColaNet, which is like this amazing system. I'm not gonna do it justice, but I would say like needs and offerings. You know what I mean? Like like this like asset-based development, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the whole ecosystem, like Michael's helped develop, you know what I mean? So I would love to have a dialogue with you sometime on one of these podcasts just to kind of learn more how to do this work, you know? So
Right.
yeah, I appreciate what you're saying on how to break it down from goals to strategies to tactics, right? And the underlying culture, because culture is everything, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? About like how we're supporting, like what are these norms that we're creating, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? And all these things to help move us forward.
Yeah. And two, it's like the strategy means nothing if we're not here to execute. You know what I mean? So the time is now. We're here to execute and co-create this strategy on what this new normal, this new order looks like for our shared future.
I say.
So how do we move forward from this? I know we'll continue to have these episodes, but like, what do you want people to take away if they're already into all of this, or if they're not? What can we do to move forward, as you said earlier, Key?
Well, for me, I think that I would love people to take away, first and foremost, just kind of let the conversation marinate. You know, just sit in it for a minute and really see what has resonated with you, what has inspired you, what has even maybe made you upset. You know, that is driving you to some type of action, whether and to identify, if we're talking about a solidarity and shared future, what is your contribution to this shared future, right? So let it marinate, and then think about what your contribution is. And then if you want to contribute and you want to execute on some things, then reach out so that we can really start to co-create what this really looks like. Because we don't want to do it any other way other than co-creation, cooperation, and collective impact.
That's it. Yeah, you know, like
it really can't be done any other way. My bad.
I say, nah, that's real. You know, like one thing that I often ask myself, you know, and I'm still working on my practice of it, right? Is that like if I knew that I knew that I knew the time at hand, how would I actually act?
Okay.
You know, like how would I wake up in the morning? How would I conduct myself during the day? You know what I mean? If like we was really in that moment, you know what I mean? That moment everybody talks about and waits for, like what is hindering us from like acting in that now? You know, is a key thing for me. You know, so like how can I continue to develop myself internally? You know, continue to be on this healing journey. You know, and at the same time, like how can I support, you know what I mean, the businesses and the community organizations and those that are pressing into this thing, you know what I mean? Like how do we continue that out? You know what I mean? So like if it's supporting Gym City Market, if it's supporting work happening, you know, if it's Hope Center and the Hope Zone, or you know, the Ugly Duckling, or multitude of organizations that are doing great work, you know, I mean, not here but across the globe, right? Like how we participate and continue forward. And I got a plug too, right? For those that want to learn more about cooperatives and cooperation, on March 20th at 6 p.m., we're going to have an information system or session about like how to strengthen our community and how to, you know, learn how to build cooperatives, what cooperatives are, you know what I mean? So for that, check out the Co-op Dayton page for more information. And I think there's Eventbrite too. I don't know how that fully works, you know what I mean? But y'all probably don't. And so like check those out as a way to you know, continue the dialogue, you know what I mean? And how we continue to build this community of practice of those that are like, we're learning together. Like I think out of this session, like I've gained insights of like, okay, like, yeah, these are like real strategies that we can take to help move the community forward. You know what I mean? So I thank everybody for being here, and like let's continue to make the road by walking it. You gonna say something, Tedro?
Oh, so Morgan Muhammad, shout out to you for being present. Thank you so much. The biggest support to our local economy is being intentional with our dollars.
Yes.
Amen.
Yes. That is self-determination. Shout out to Morgan, our amazing store director at the Gym City Market, right? It's like we need to connect the power of our dollar towards the future we're trying to create. You know what I mean? That like we vote with our dollars, you know what I mean? And like when we put dollars into entities that are extracting it from our community and not flowing it through the community, right? Like we get to certain outcomes, you know what I mean? And we have to accept that, like, yo, we intentionally did that. You know what I mean? We can't do it and then complain. You know what I mean? Because like, you know, if I give my money to entities that are going to take it outside of our community, then like I made that conscious choice. You know what I mean? And so like that, it is what it is. You know what I mean?
And that leads me to this last. Yes,
Yeah.
And that leads me to this, and I think part of like an action takeaway is, you know, also identifying based on this last comment here, where do you, based on where you spend your money, because that'll tell you what you value, right? And so if we understand what we value, and if we're saying that we want to live in a solidarity community, and it's, you know, we're wanting to be more collective and cooperative, if our values are telling us that we are more capitalistic and individual, then I think we need to maybe do some internal dialogue and understand what that means, what the shift means for us first and foremost, before we can actually even contribute, and continue to join in and tune in on these conversations. And the next month is going to be with Dr. Jessica. I want to shout that out. She, you know, this is a, you know, Tasia and Amaha last week or last month was the prereq to this conversation. This is the prereq to that conversation. Okay, it just is a building upon more and more conversations about what this shared future looks like.
Right. So you know, our next episode, I can't remember the date off the top of my head, but Dr. Jessica Nimhart, the author of the amazing book Collective Courage, is going to be on, and actually Morgan Muhammad and Alvin from Makerspace are going to be on. Those are two co-ops, right? We're going to have a conversation about, you know, cooperative economic development, right? And like how it works, how to impact the community. And just a chance to sit at one of our elders who's done extensive work and has lived this life, you know what I mean? That we can, you know, get a chance to pick her brain of like how we can do this better and learn, you know what I mean? And so, you know, I encourage everybody to like check out the market, you know what I mean? Like there's so much happening at the market, you know what I mean? Come check it out, you know what I mean? And give us your feedback of what we're doing good, you know, what things you want to improve, you know what I mean? What things you're willing to do to help, you know what I mean? Because like, it can't just be on the backs of a couple of people to hold this market, you know what I mean? And so like what can we do to contribute, you know what I mean, to co-own this market together, right? And to use it as a piece in larger community transformation as we're moving our community forward, you know?
Yeah. Yep.
Cool.
Well, thank y'all. This has been fun.
Can you guys hear me? I'm so sorry.
Yeah. Now we can. You got something you want to close this or what?
Oh, well, I just really wanted to just share something that came on my heart. Amaha, earlier you said something about like just like creating a habit and how like we've been like just unknowingly or knowingly competing and taught to compete for so long. And I feel like our community has been walking in cooperativeness and solidarity in a lot of ways. And so I don't want anybody to think we're starting from scratch. We're just really trying to like make sure it's sustainable and improve and go beyond, you know, the limits that we even set for ourselves. So whatever vision you have for a cooperative economy or a community full of solidarity or built on solidarity, it's going to be 20,000 times that, and our children and our children's children are going to be sure of that as well. So thank you guys for the conversation. And Amaha, the next conversation is March 13th. I just looked it up. I didn't know.
Okay, good thanks. Yeah, so March 13th. And you know, like in the chat, right, which might not be now, but like when people are watching this later, let's name all the different ways that solidarity is already showing up, right? Because that is part of the theme, you know what I mean? If it's like, yo, I will take your kids, I'll take all the kids to this if, you know, you do it next week, or, you know, all these different ways that we are already practicing solidarity, right? Because it's not a foreign thing to us. You know, we already do it, but we just don't name it as such, you know what I mean? So what are these different ways that people are already practicing cooperation, you know what I mean, and advancing cooperation? So like, yeah, just put them in the chat, you know what I mean, and like we'll have a dialogue, you know, through the chat, you know. Yeah, cool. So peace and hair grease, everybody, and you know, also let us know how to make this better, you know what I mean? Like we're like, you know, I'm new to this, you know, they more pros on this podcast stuff, you know what I mean? So yeah, let us know, you know what I mean, like how we can really build this community of practice. And you know, I would love to have, more people hop on, and, we're going to just make this road by walking it, right? All right, so peace and hair grease, everybody.
Have a good evening.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Peace.